So, all right, we've talked a little bit about Springs, and I want to just kind of think high level. So, Springs is an emerging city, right? Like, still a ton of opportunity. It's not in Austin, it's not in Seattle, it's not any of those places, but it's its own unique, beautiful place. What do you think are some of the ingredients required to build an ecosystem where businesses thrive? Because I think Springs is on the precipice. We're right there where it's like, hey, we can either do some really awesome things or we can not. And I think there's a lot of young entrepreneurs that are coming into this town like me that are really excited and trying to figure out how do we put all these puzzle pieces together. But what do you think are some of those ingredients that you've seen that help an ecosystem thrive?
That's a great question. Well, first and foremost, like I said before, I was one of those people who left. I didn't think that the city had that, so I sought other options, outside of the Springs. And because I've seen it many times kind of build up to a level and then kind of just stagnate out, and build up to a level and then kind of stagnate out. And I've met entrepreneurs who are 15, 20 years older than me who were those people who built it to those levels, and then it kind of was like this for a bit. So we need those people. One of the biggest things that you need for a community to be thriving is you need volume of different happenings going on.
Welcome to the Exceptional Companies Podcast, a podcast for purpose-led entrepreneurs looking to master the art of buying, selling, or optimizing small businesses. Your host, Chris Seegers, founder of Exceptional Companies and author of Selling Main Street, has over a decade of experience starting, buying, and leading successful businesses. He's here to guide you through the complex world of business transactions and growth. Each week, we dive deep with actionable insights, expert interviews, and real-world strategies to activate and equip you to live exceptionally and build exceptional businesses. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Here's your host, Chris Seegers.
Welcome to the Exceptional Companies Podcast, where we chat about how to buy, sell, and optimize your business. I am joined by an awesome guest, Marcus Alvarado. Man, welcome to the show. I want to chat a little bit about who you are, and we're going to dig into building healthy ecosystems, both in community and businesses. But Marcus grew up in Colorado Springs. He's a very successful entrepreneur. He started multiple successful marketing firms. He launched the largest tiny home expo ever, I think, in the world, in the universe. And he hosts a COS Business Podcast, which is, it may be the largest business podcast in Colorado. So really excited to have you here, man. Welcome to the show.
Dude, thanks so much for having me on. It's so great being on the other side of the table for something like this, man. And what an intro. Thank you so much. It's interesting to hear your body of work kind of played back for you. It's kind of interesting. I'm like, man, I'm getting older, I guess, with all those things going on.
That's right. It's that line between being humble and then being like, oh, we've actually accomplished some things the last 20 years. So that's awesome. So, dude, I'm so excited. How many podcasts are you guys up to now? Because you've been doing it a long time.
Yeah, so we've been doing it for just shy of 5.5 years now. We're at episode 280 something. Andrew's better at that than me, but 200, we're in the 280s. So we're getting up there, around 50 a year if you do that math. Such an incredible journey. I'm happy to dive into the intro of that. I mean, everything else. A lot of this stuff just naturally comes to me when I join these ventures, and they're kind of funny because I think I did have a little bit of that shiny object syndrome, I guess, with a lot of entrepreneurs get infectially for doing businesses. But yeah, 280 something at this point, and we'll have you on very soon too. So we're super pumped about that too, Chris. And I feel like we've had a really good synergy, man. It's been awesome.
For sure. So let's back up. So the story, the foundation of entrepreneurs and human beings is always so interesting. So back us up as far as you want to go, where you're from, how you grew up, how you really got that entrepreneurial bug. And then fast forward, tell us a little bit about the tiny house event, because that was huge and it seemed like it kind of launched, and then you started doing other events and the marketing. So really kind of walk us through that so our listeners understand who you are.
Yeah, totally, man. Great question. So first and foremost, I'm one of those entrepreneurs who always wanted to be one. Even when I was a little boy, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. My mom was an executive in the newspaper industry, and she specialized in advertising. Now, a lot of folks now might not think of newspapers as being like a big behemoth of a media business that it was in the 90s. It was the biggest. I mean, she managed hundreds of millions of dollars in annual revenue for just one newspaper in one city. And so we got to move around a lot like a military family, and I got to meet a lot of different people from all different strides of life. I've lived in New York, upstate New York, was born in California, obviously lived in Colorado, but she ended up finishing her career in Kentucky. And just like when you move around so much like that, you really get to understand people. And she surrounded me with business people at a young age. So I was that young kid at like 5 or 6 years old and say, hey, my name is Marcus Alvarado. I'm Patty Alvarado's son. What's your name? And just like I was that kid,
That's
right? Where
awesome.
everybody's like, oh my gosh, but I had a really good mentor in my mom. I feel like she would have been an incredible entrepreneur if she started that earlier on in her life. So I always wanted to be one. And so when I went to college, naturally I wanted to do marketing, just like my mom. She was in advertising, right? And so that's what I did. So when I went to college, it was at UCCS here in Colorado Springs from 2009 to 2014. I wanted something a little bit more out of my education where I get a little bit more applicable experience, more than just like an internship or something like that. So what we started with 2 other students was called the Marketing Club at UCCS. So something, simple in the name, right? Marketing Club at UCCS. And what we did is we wanted to give ourselves real world experience with business owners and then in turn give them free labor. So they're like, heck yeah, right? So
Love it.
no one really said no
Yep.
to us. And then we got a ton of experience and ton of members because every marketing student wanted to join the club because we're like, hey, we're going to be doing a focus group for this company, or we're going to be, doing marketing for that, whatever it might have been, and just garnered a lot of attention from the city. That was like the quickest way for me to kind of get a community of people who are doing something similar to me and then learn on, just experience. And so long story short, I ended up landing a freelance job with a tiny house builder here in Colorado Springs. And this is like in 2014, beginning of 2014. And I'll never forget it because everything in the universe was making me not make this meeting to interview with this guy. It was rainy out. I think it was hailing.
And tiny homes were just like on the horizon, though.
Oh, dude,
Like
yeah.
people didn't really know what they were. There wasn't like a bunch of HGTV shows and folks that were like, this is a lifestyle. So that was probably like, yeah, that's interesting.
Long time ago, man. And like, again, I barely made it there. I made it 20 minutes late because it was hailing outside. It was on a Saturday. So it was like nothing was open. I didn't even know the building I was meeting this guy meeting him in was open too. And just ended up just striking like great synergies with him. And he kept telling me about these tiny house things and to be honest with you, like after an hour, I was like, I still don't really know what this is or what market it fits into, but I'm happy to freelance for you and figure it out. And so what we ended up doing is he was putting one in the Parade of Homes in Colorado Springs that year. And I think it was either the 50th or 60th annual Parade of Homes that year. So it was a big deal. And for folks at home that don't know what a Parade of Homes is, it's a Home and Builders Association. Every major city has one of those, right? It's all the builders and associations, and they open up ticketing to kind of view their open models for the summer or whatever. It's like 17 days. And so luckily for him, he just happened to be a builder, and he happened to build tiny houses and get that into a show like that that's very prestigious. It's like, your mansions, you put booties on your shoes, you kind of walk in these places.
For sure.
And he wanted to flip the script on it and enter in a tiny house into the lowest category for house, whatever it was at that time. I remember what it was. It was like $100,000 to $150,000 house price point category for that show. And ton of experience, man. I mean, he put me in charge of all the marketing, all the sponsorships, getting all the, never did sponsors ever in my life. And that year was just huge. It was a massive, massive success with the attendance for that specific Parade of Homes. It was up like 30%. And then we ended up winning the People's Choice Award that year and just like pissing off a lot of people, a lot of builders.
All the traditional stick builders.
And they're like, you're not a real house builder. Tiny houses are not a real thing. And so it sparked this idea from him to do an event the next year, 2015. And again, he was footing the bill for all of this, right? But he was like, I want to put on an event where I just invite these tiny house builders, similar to me, but they're kind of just starting up, invite them to Colorado Springs, make it part of the Parade of Homes, the Colorado Springs Parade of Homes for 2015. And I want to call it the Tiny House Jamboree. And if we have a couple thousand people, that's a huge success. But Marcus, I'm in charge of the marketing for that and help somewhat organize it. And we'll see if it's a success or not. If a couple thousand people come, great. Well, it was a huge success. It was a free event. 40,000 people showed up to this thing, and it had a write-up in the news.
Wow.
We didn't even know someone from
Holy smokes.
Lightning in the
Okay, let's
bottle.
pause there for a second. So you've got 40,000 people showing up to an event that they think a couple thousand are. What happened, man? Was it just chaos and people just parking wherever and like not knowing where? Like, how did you pull that off? That's incredible.
Well, long story short, man, like the math ain't mathing, and that's correct. Like we probably should have been shut down. It was total Woodstock where there's not enough resources, not enough water, not enough parking. we had people from out of the country coming to this thing. They were parking in random fields and then getting their rental car towed. And it was just kind of a nightmare in some aspects because it was our first time doing an event like this. But we made it happen and no one got hurt nonetheless. And it was a huge success. But like you said, yeah, it was one, it was an event not meant for that many people. And two, it was a venue not meant for that many people. So, I mean, people were parking all over the place and it was just chaos. But it was by and large a great thing for the northern part of town. Big economic boom. And just lightning in the bottle, right? We didn't even know that New Yorker person came specifically until they were there. So it was just so much attention. And again, like we're hitting it right, like you were saying, like right when tiny houses were taking off. And just, it was a great experience for me just to learn all these different skill sets, all like a year out of college. At that point, I was a year out of college and already had like this on my resume. So ended up doing that for a couple more years with the guy, and then I ended up leaving and joining some larger marketing agencies in and around the U.S., which was huge, another great experience for me. And meanwhile, I was like, man, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. Like, I want to go back, and what I know how to do best, well, I know how to put an event on now, so let me do my own tiny house festival and bring it back to Colorado Springs, because at that point, it had been sold to a company out of Vegas, and it had moved out of Colorado Springs. And so in 2018, left my marketing job, went into the event world as an event organizer myself and forked the bill myself and put on my first event called the People's Tiny House Festival. And that itself was a ticketed event, so it was actually paid and had 20,000 people show up to it. And it was at the Air Force Academy and just, again, large success during the tiny house movement boom, van life boom. So there was a lot of vans on display there. And just had, again, just a huge blessing early on, man, in my early on success, and did that for another 5 or 6 years through COVID. And there's a lot of fun things that happened during COVID. Of course, no events happened during COVID. So my biggest dream I've always wanted was to own a marketing agency, because I've seen what they look like at the highest level and just thought it was so cool and the culture was so great. And like,
can I ask you a really dumb question? Can I pause you right there?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think like in business, we use terms, for example, like marketing, right? We're like, hey, you got to get your marketing process dialed in and strategy dialed in. And tell me what, like, if you could break down marketing, what successful marketing is as opposed to what people believe it is, what would that be? So as you think about, hey, marketing, like what does that phrase mean?
That's a great question. We used to entertain that exact definition in college all the time. I think it's truly just a brand's voice and whatever you want that to be. And then getting that, and it's the art of getting that voice out there. Because every
That's
brand,
really good.
everything's completely unique. The podcast is unique from my Tiny House Festival. So branding and marketing is one of the biggest pillars in it, because that's where you find the voice and how you want to convey the message or the personality, if you will, of your business, and then conveying that out to specific groups of people, if not all people, depending on your business. So that's how I would define it. And there's, I mean, like if you're a business owner and you have all these different channels and all these different types of tactics, it gets super overwhelming. So like in the marketing space, like the one thing I've had to learn as far as my body of work over all these years is like really educate a client on like how, like, let's cut through all the noise of everything going on in the marketing space and let's figure out what's best for you. But most of the time it's like a comprehensive solution and efforts towards so many different things, because they all are very important and they actually hum together and make the whole thing really go, the engine really go. So hopefully that answers most of your question, because I know there's a lot of confusion there for a lot of business owners. I'm like, okay, I know about, email marketing or Google marketing or Facebook marketing. They're all important and they can all talk to one another. And a great marketing strategy, a business with a great marketing strategy has all those pieces humming together and working together to make something work.
Yep, I love that, though, just like communicating the voice. That's a really clear, succinct way. Okay, so pardon the interruption, back to it. So you just launched this massively successful event. So fast forward us to you're going to start your own marketing agency, right? So did you end up selling the events business or keep it going? Is it still going? How'd you get from there to there?
Yeah, so it's been an interesting time. So we're fast forwarding all the way to 2020, about to plan my biggest event. It's going to be in Denver that year, because at that point, Colorado Springs doesn't really have a venue that has a big enough footprint for an actual event, and also all the parking. So we did our last one at Pikes Peak International Raceway. It was great there too, but we wanted something that was more near a bigger population. So we moved up to Denver, and it was, talk about like the planning. It was over a year out for that one. We had everything in place, title sponsors, COVID hits. And I'm like, oh man.
So you're like 2019, you're like, let's push all the chips in and let's go big and let's make this thing happen. I'm sure you're spending a ton of money
Oh yeah.
in anticipation of your biggest event, and then boom, COVID hits.
Totally,
Like,
man.
walk us through that.
Yeah, I mean, think of it this way. So, like my very first event with buying all the equipment, I mean, and everything that I needed was $100,000. And for a young kid, that's a lot of money to throw up, you know? And so that was kind of the baseline, even after the years after that, just to kind of put on an event at that scale with that many people and to be able to supply the infrastructure of an event. So that same year, we were going to raise the budget by 30%. And like you said, push the chips again, all in. It seems like it's like a recurring thing for us, right? Just always just put them all in and the people will come. And COVID
That's right.
smacks us right in March 2020. And I'll never forget it because I'm like, there's no way they would ever pause the Olympics or South by Southwest in Austin, Texas. And and I was like, oh man, this is crazy. And so what ended up happening is that we had a lot of vendors saying like, hey, listen, like, if you're going to pause this or cancel this or whatever, we want our money back. And then obviously we didn't have the money because we were trying to put on an event. So we had this weird interim. And I was like, man, if life is going to be on pause, if I can't figure out when the heck this event's going to go on, I have to cancel it for next year, until next year at least. But let's use this time because it's going to be the greatest displacement of talent in the marketing space probably for the next 20 years or so. And so that's what I knew,
sure.
and it was 100% the case. People that I worked with other agencies were being displaced or furloughed, and I was like, man, I've worked with some great people. Let me go ahead and fulfill my dream and open up a marketing agency with some partners that I know who know marketing, if not better than me, at a whole nother level and can cover the basis for me. And so that's what I did. I had a
Love it.
partner with my festival. He wasn't a partner, but he was like my right-hand man, and then two partners from other marketing agencies, and when we formed Recon Marketing. And I mean, talk about great timing for digital marketing. Everybody was on their phone during 2020 because there was nothing else really to do, and just like we've launched
And spending money because there was nothing else to do.
yeah, those stimulus checks, man, and they were just like, let me do anything. So like, I mean, it was a really interesting time because I was like, man, I'm doing my event. Sometime I'll do my event again, but now I'm launching an agency and it's doing well too, just because people are spending a lot of money. And so I had a ton of success with it. It was great. Long story short, I think Recon now is just hit its 5th birthday, so it's been 5 years now for Recon. The festival itself I've put on pause for the past year and a half because I want to kind of refocus what I want to do with my time, and I wanted to put a lot more focus into podcasting. So here comes podcasting world, right? So during that time, I moved back to Colorado Springs. At a certain point, I was living in Fort Collins, working and doing a lot of marketing up there, and moved back to Colorado Springs. I was very disenchanted with Colorado Springs, say 10 years ago. And there was a reason why I moved in the first place. I felt like there were people in place here that I was trying to latch onto for some kind of mentorship or things of that nature. And I feel like for whatever reason, it was probably me, I wasn't getting that out of the city. And I was like, man, I need to keep growing. I want a place where I can thrive and be around people who are doing things at a high level that I can strive with. And so I moved back here to be closer to my family. I was a caregiver for my grandfather. It was a crazy time during that time, during COVID, right? And I was like, you know what? I want to start my own podcast. And I don't know if anybody's doing it here in Colorado Springs at a high level, but I want to do it at a high level because everything I do, I want to do full force. And I heard about this guy named Andrew, and he was doing this thing called the COS Business Podcast. I was like, let me go grab coffee with this kid. I want to see what he's all about, and maybe he can produce my podcast. And after 2 hours, I was like, you know what? Let's just go to your studio and check out what you got going on here. See if I can help you out, or see if there's a way we could trade deals, or you could produce my podcast out of your space, whatever. By the time I saw his space, I'm like, let's just partner up, man. You haven't made this thing a business yet. You're crazy. You're doing 3 to 5 of these interviews a week. And I bring the big business acumen to the table, and maybe I can help with sponsors and guests and just kind of bring strengths to the table. And we launched it January 2021. He already was 80 episodes in, and I jumped on board. And at first was just the guy kind of like scheduling things. It was behind the camera, and I don't think I necessarily jumped in until like 180 episodes or something like that. And now we both co-host the COS Business Podcast. And it's just been an amazing experience. I mean, it's over 100,000 views a month now for across all of our channels. It's allowed us.
What's the mission behind that, Marcus? Because the first time you and I met, you and I just connected so much on service, right? Like how to create an ecosystem that serves itself, that serves each other, that helps flourish. But what was the focus for, and what is the focus for that podcast? Because it's been massively successful.
Great question, man. So when Andrew first started it, he wanted it to be a way of some personal branding for himself. He's a videographer with a marketing background. He wanted to be able to just, it's like that one cool saying that Gary Vaynerchuk always says. He's like, if you're not the coolest kid in school, if you're not a jock, if you're not handsome, be the kid that throws a party, because then you're going to become popular just by virtue of that. It's kind of the same thing from an adult level. It's like, if you want to be able to get your name out there and have people be in the room with you, what a better way than just interviewing them and to have them on the show and highlight them. And so that was kind of the idea from the beginning with him. And now, since it's grown so much, there's bigger and more audacious goals with it. But that's absolutely a big part of it. And I know it's going into like our overarching theme here of like creating an ecosystem here in the Springs. Like there's never been a better experience building our own brand and like kind of what we bring to the table, but also connecting folks in the community. I'm like, man, Chris, you need to meet, someone that we're trying to connect you with right now, Robert. You need to meet Robert because you guys would be great in this type of business. That's the piece that I love the most because I love connecting people. I think that's also why I threw an event, is because connecting the people in there is a real beautiful thing to see what comes out of it. And there were so many beautiful little micro wins along the way of those connections.
I love it, man. So, all right, we've talked a little bit about Springs, and I want to just kind of think high level. So Springs is an emerging city, right? Like still a ton of opportunity. It's not in Austin. It's not a Seattle. It's not any of those places, but it's its own unique, beautiful place. What do you think are some of the ingredients required to build an ecosystem where businesses thrive? Because I think Springs is on the precipice. We're right there where it's like, hey, we can either do some really awesome things or we can not. And I think there's a lot of young entrepreneurs that are coming into this town like me that are really excited and trying to figure out how do we put all these puzzle pieces together. But what do you think are some of those ingredients that you've seen that help an ecosystem thrive?
That's a great question. Well, first and foremost, like I said before, like I was one of those people who left. I didn't think that the city had that, so I sought other options, outside of the Springs. And because I've seen it many times kind of build up to a level and then kind of just stagnate out and build up to a level and then kind of stagnate out. And I've met entrepreneurs who were 15, 20 years older than me who were those people who built it to those levels and then it kind of was like this for a bit. So we need those people. One of the biggest things that you need for a community to be thriving is you need volume of different happenings going on. Like you go to an Austin, Texas on a Friday night, I guarantee you're going to have 5, 10, 15, 20 options of what to do that night. On top of like nightlife, but I'm talking about different types of entrepreneur events, networking, different types of podcasts go on, whatever it might be. We need the volume to be put in place. This city originally was a pocketed town, man. Like people in Northgate, I grew up in Northgate, had no reason to go anywhere but Northgate for a long time. And back then we didn't have anything. We just had a grocery store and a couple cool bars and restaurants. That was it. This town has built itself out very spread out. And so I feel like it's been really hard to centralize it. And then the downtown obviously has missed out on some of those infrastructures that have been rapidly taken off, like the North Side or the Powers Corridor or whatever it might be, and Fountain or whatever. So we are now at a point now where there's people who've transplanted here who see the value in this town and the people of value who are already inner working in it. So we need the connectors to link everybody up because they're already here. The players are already in place. They just need to be brought together and we need to really link up. And it can't be just a few hundred people. It really has to be a few thousand people to really bring everything together. And then the young people will just fall in line. The people like me who are looking for that, they're like, holy crap. Like I know Marcus from the COS Business Podcast, Chris Seegers, like they'll be able to access those things. So the last piece of this is like now we actually have the people here. Let's centralize this sucker and let's create that value where a young entrepreneur can be like, man, I got to choose whether to hang out with Chris tonight or hang out with Marcus tonight or do this thing or whatever. That's kind of how things fall into place, in my opinion.
I love it. So what would that look like tactically? If you're on that precipice, kind of that tipping point, is that creating some sort of cadence of really amazing events that are entrepreneurial focused, that are either tactical or rah-rah kind of mastermind focused? What would that look like? Because I think that's something you'd be awesome at launching. And I agree. So when we moved here almost 5 years ago, I was like, wow, this town has so much going for it. I mean, we love it here. We think this is the greatest place in the entire United States to live, and we're going to live here a long time. However, we said, man, there seems like there's just a big communication problem where everybody's kind of doing their own thing, and there's no like central hub that when you come in and you're like, hey, I'm just a driven individual and I want to connect with other driven individuals. There wasn't a mechanism to actually do that. So what would that look like, do you think?
I think it is kind of already happening. I think that a lot of people are doing things at a very high level, but they're not necessarily connecting with one another. Because you have the exponential impacts. They have so much entrepreneurial things going on. Derby, It was a demo day. They have pitch nights. They have all these things that were traditionally in downtown at a smaller level. If you're a true entrepreneur who was digging for this stuff, you would find it. But now, like, you have these big moving ships, but they're not downtown. I think the true way to really do this is to bring things more centralized downtown, because our downtown has such an opportunity and
for sure.
potential to be something great. Events is always great, man. They get excitement heightened up. They get people excited to dress up and present themselves and have a real human experience with another human. I think it's all those things. So like raising the cadence in these select areas, because they all have them in their own different areas. Like the north side has their own little, and believe me, I grew up there. They have their own little like networking group of people who connect with one another. And you have the same thing on the west side and the south side. And like there's some in the middle, but they're kind of, we're still, like you said, we're still kind of missing each other. The message is still not strong enough. So we need to really push, that centralized area in which we can all gather and celebrate. And that's our spot, and that's it.
Love it.
Do you like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss an episode by clicking the subscribe button now, and check out our website, www.excoadvisors.com. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. Now, back to the show.
Okay, let's kind of change gears here. What have you loved most about interviewing hundreds of people? I mean, you have had some incredible guests, and you've had some very different guests, right? You've had massively successful entrepreneurs. You've had folks talking about therapy. You've had folks talking about, hey, I've struggled with this, and now I'm this. And I mean, when I listen to the podcast, I'm like, man, the breadth of people you have on the show is pretty amazing. But what have you loved most? What have you learned most from those folks?
Oh, man, you could derive so much of a good story from any background. That's 100% what it is for me. I love interviewing, talking to people is really what I feel like. Talking to people from different backgrounds, different strides of life. Again, you know my story now. I grew up in upstate New York. I grew up in California. I grew up with kind of a worldly experience, at least in the U.S., and I feel like I have an inherent ability to connect with those people. And so when we bring them on, man, it brings a lot of value, because I think people who tune in, they want to know that it's possible for them to do X, Y, and Z. And so if you hear a perspective from a J.W. Roth, where he started off as a police officer, and this guy more than likely will be the next billionaire to come out of Colorado Springs, what a story to come out of that.
For sure.
Yep. So that's the hugest value for me, is getting down deep. The good thing about long form is you can actually go deep. It's not a sound bite, like a talk show or anything like that. We get to talk about life where it really makes people tick.
I love that, man. And so with all of our team and even our clients, younger folks have a general pessimism towards the U.S., and I don't. I mean, I think this country is just tremendous. The opportunities are there. And that's what I love about your podcast, is you see that there is no secret sauce. There is no genetic advantage of like, hey, if you have the entrepreneurial gene, right? I mean, you have people, like we grew up with no running water in Mexico. Our dad was a missionary doctor. I mean, there's no reason we should have the success that we do. And I'm one of the dumbest guys you're ever going to meet in a room. I just love learning. And so I love that about the podcast. And that's my encouragement is, guys, the playing field is so open. If you want to be a multimillionaire in the United States, you can absolutely do it in almost any field you want to go into. Now, you're going to have to do some really hard things. You're going to have to do some things that other W-2 folks aren't willing to do. But, like, it's absolutely out there. I mean, you had a few female folks that had come out of abusive relationships and started businesses. And, I mean, just like the most horrible situations. And now they're on this rocket ship of success. So I love that, man. Just the humanity of the podcast has been amazing. So let me ask you a little bit different of a question. I think we're in a time that there's a lot of noise. So we just had a big political change. We've got, potentially international wars going on. We have AI coming on really strong. There's just a lot of things, right? People, I think, are really confused and really trying to figure out, what do I do next? How do I build a 5-year plan? How do I have success in my personal life and professional life? What do you think in 2025 it takes to be successful as an entrepreneur? Just a couple things that you're like, man, these are the through lines that we've seen either in yourself or in people you've interviewed.
I think it's two things. Parasocial relationships is huge. So what I mean by that is like plugging into people who are doing the thing. And I'll get to it here in a second about like the personal relationships, but like we now have access to some of the greatest entrepreneurs of our time by just opening a phone or a laptop. Unbelievable.
Yep, 100%.
And the resources that are available to us, as opposed to like walking your butt to a library, getting a library card and checking in and reading for a couple hours and deciphering the information. Now we can access specific different types of skill sets very easily. So we're super blessed in that aspect. That's number one. Number two, you just hit on it. Like entrepreneurship is very isolating inherently just because you're doing things that most people aren't willing to do. Work weekends, work 100-hour weeks, whatever it might be. So 100% you have to garner a great tribe of people in your circle. There's power in proximity,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Nothing more true. That's a Tony Robbins quote, but it's so, so true. When you operate in different types of circles of people who are striving for similar things to you, it reinvigorates why you're doing what you're doing, why you're working the weekends, why you might have to miss something out on a family member's get together. There's a lot of sacrifice that goes into doing what we do, but there's nothing more gratifying in it. Like we live in a country where we can, like you said, build anything that we want. It's one of the most beautiful things about this country. And you can bet your butt, man, that like people in other countries like China and all these other places that want to compete to be number one, they're working overtime to beat us. And so like those who are really striving to do the best and compete with one another, they're going to have a lot of success here in the U.S.
I love that, man. So I want to touch on something that you said that's actually massively important, which is, so a lot of folks are like, hey, I'm not in a town where I can find a good mentor. Maybe I'm in a rural area or whatever. Number one, I don't think that's correct. I think you can find somebody. It just takes time. But what you just said is absolutely correct. We're in an age where choose your mentor. If you're like, hey, I love Tony Robbins' style or Ed Milet's style or whoever, right? Whoever aligns with you both spiritually and on the business side, you can get that mentoring for free. Before it was like you had to get like cassette tapes or, CDs of their course. And I've said that, like, so I think I've had great mentors my whole life, but one of the greatest mentors I've had is a guy named Jim Rohn, who most people have never heard of, right? Like he's been dead for a long time. He has a master series on Audible. It's probably like $9. It has got so much wisdom. I've listened to it probably 5 times. Anytime anybody says, hey, where should I start for business or personal development? I'm like, listen to this guy, because the things that he recorded in 1970, 80, 90s, they are still true today, and that means that's fact, right? Like that has authority there. But you get to choose in this day and age. You can say, whatever my mentor is, you can go listen to their podcast. I mean, Tony Robbins has an event. You should Google it if anyone's listening. They have a free event the end of July that's like 3 days. It's a 3-day mastermind, and it's free. That thing used to be like $50,000. I mean, to do that. Now they're doing it digital, but I do it every year because it's such a great way to refresh and just have time to focus on deep work and thinking and expanding your mind. And it's a free thing. So I think like we've got to kind of get rid of the excuses for why we can't be successful, because they're just not there anymore. Like the resources are massive. Okay, so I'm going to change this topic a little bit. So our company, Exceptional Business Advisors, our focus is really taking really good operating businesses and putting them into the hands of acquisition entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs who are like, I want to get into a business. I don't want to start one. I want to have cash flow and clients and a team and some systems. As you think about, there's really like this tsunami of baby boomers, and they're looking to retire. Like, how would you counsel a young entrepreneur for purchasing and scaling that business? What are some of the things, the skills or core values or traits they need to go get before they're ready to go buy that business?
That's a great question. I think a lot of young, and it depends on the age, of course, but like there's earned ignorance tax that we had to pay to
100%.
Buy a business that a lot of people need to learn in one way, shape, or form. Owning a business or trying entrepreneurship firsthand is, of course, baptism by fire, right? So you learn so many things. But like one of the core pieces is like learning how to manage money and people. Learning how to manage money and
For
people,
sure.
man, because business
Yep.
is people. I mean, at the end
For
of the
sure.
day, you have to learn how to manage people. And you can get that in a variety of different ways. I mean, for me, I got like a little bit more corporate, marketing agency experience. It helps so much with managing people because at the end of the day, like as you scale, and you know this from your experience too, is you get people from different backgrounds, different personality
Oh yeah.
types. I mean, you
For
have to
sure.
manage them in a different way. So that's number one is like,
And different age groups, Marcus. That's been the biggest thing for me to learn is like we might have an 18-year-old employee and a 70-year-old employee.
yeah, man.
And so how they communicate, how like what incentivizes them, how they're driven is totally different, right? Like how their ability to use technology, their ability to communicate, all these different things. And you've got to put this in a matrix and treat them all fairly and help them all, survive and flourish. And it's like, it's very difficult, honestly. It's really fascinating.
Great point, man. Like when I first started my very first event, first one on my dime, I think the average age of the people I employed was like 47 and I was 27. So huge. I mean, they're taking orders from a 27-year-old and they're like, 20 years, 30 years older than me. So it was the same thing.
For sure.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And then the second thing is learn really how to manage money and gross margin. I know a lot of people kind of put that off to the side until the end as far as like, hey, I'm making money. And the one thing I've learned from having so many business partners is that people truly don't understand margins and how to make a business thrive. At the end of the day, you're growing
sure.
a baby and you have to put money back into your business. Not be like, hey, I made 10 grand this month, 10 grand in my personal bank account and spent it. There has to be a system in place. And again, you can learn this young as far as learning your own finances and how to allocate money and make something healthy. Your business is its own standing entity and it has to be healthy. It has to be fed back in some of the revenue. So learn those two things. Finances, how to actually put money and allocate money, reinvest money, all those different things. Don't think it's all yourself, especially when you're trying to grow. And then the second thing is when you're in people, learn how to deal with people, or you can't go too far unless, of course, AI takes over and we don't have to do that. But for now, that's the core two things I think are best for when you jump into a company and you jump into ownership.
I love that. And there's a really good book called Profit First that gives a great matrix for how you reinvest in your business and how you take profits out of the business, because you need to do both, right? You don't want to just run a business forever and be like, man, I'm paying myself $50,000 a year and I'm killing myself. It's like, no, you should go get a job. Like you need a system for expanding the business, but also making sure that that business is paying you appropriately for the time and energy that you're putting into that. Okay, so we've got a few more minutes here. I always end with two questions. One is, what's bad advice you've gotten along your entrepreneurial journey, or even recently? Like, I think there's a lot of bad advice floating around on social media or from people that haven't done the thing in the entrepreneurial space. And the second question is a tool, a resource, a book, and something recent, like something in the last 90 days that's just been a game changer for you that you'd like to share with the audience.
Okay. And repeat the first question one more time.
Yeah, just bad advice that you heard on your entrepreneurial journey, or recently you've just heard somebody say that. When people do that, I just kind of shake my head and don't even comment, because it's usually something that I'm like, this is a ridiculous comment. But what's something that someone gave you some bad advice along the way?
Oh, yeah, man. So when I first started in my entrepreneurial journey 15 years ago, I read this book called, and it was a buddy who gave it to me. He's like, listen, man, we can build businesses and it's going to be this easy. And, we can only take a couple hours a week to do these different things. It was called Beach Money. And I don't want to throw any negative things out there, but I definitely think that entrepreneurship will take a season of your life to learn the skills to be good at it.
100%.
And anything, I feel like in the definition of entrepreneur should be the word sacrifice in the very beginning, because it's not always sacrifice. Like you're saying, you're not going to always have to work hundreds of hours a week to build things if you don't want to. It'll get to a level where you don't have to, but it's absolutely a truth where you have to put in the work, the hours, the sacrifice to build this thing up. So like the first lie to me was like, hey man, we could take weekends off or we could do this in the very beginning of learning our skill sets to being business owners and building something from the ground up, especially when you're building something from the ground up. When you take over a business, there might be some other mechanisms already in place and buying systems. Like when you buy a business, look at the systems, of course, look what operators they have in place, of course. But when you're starting a business from scratch, it will absolutely take a lot of effort to get that thing going. So don't let anybody tell you like, hey, listen, open up a coffee shop, you only got to work 30, 40 hours a week to get the thing going. Like it's going to take a lot of effort. So that's the biggest lie I've definitely heard in entrepreneur space. And I get told it every once in a while quite a bit too. And I'm like, man, you must be doing something different than me because I know what it took for me to get to my level. And yeah, now I'm able to take days off and take time off and take the weekend or the evenings off. But it took a lot of sacrifice to get there.
Yeah, I think, and this is what Jim Rohn and Zig Ziglar always said too, that they're like, there's no free lunch. And that's the truth. Like, whatever energy you put into it is something that you're going to reap down the road. It's just like a harvest, right? So if you plant correctly and you put in the water and the nutrients year after year after year, you will be successful. Now, you may have a couple harvests that are really bad, and you may have a couple harvests that are 100x, right? Just like Jesus says. Like the seeds that are thrown on the fertile soil, like that's 100x harvest. That's going to make it worth the time and energy. And I've always said business is very simple. Don't screw it up. And people always misinterpret that as easy. I'm like, no, it's actually very simple. It's just you got to do the simple things for a decade. Like you have to do the same thing time after time after time after time. When people are like, no, I'm going to give up. I started this business, I'm 5 years in, we're not making that much money. Well, it might be the 7th year where they really kind of hit that tipping point and all that momentum starts going. But I love that perspective, man. I've actually said, like, I don't want to work on any problems that won't take me a decade to solve.
Love it.
So whether that's building a business or just solving some sort of problem for our clients, I'm like, if it's an easy problem, then I'm not interested. Someone else can solve those problems. I want to like chew on something for a long time. The other thing that ties into that, so you'll see a lot of folks that are massively successful, right? And they might have hit on some opportunity, right? They might have bought Bitcoin when it was super cheap, or they started this, tech company and they just hit this thing, right? Like you said, it's lightning in a bottle, and they hit that lightning in a bottle. But if you talk to them 10 years later, 99% of them will be broke, right? Because they didn't build the skills along that journey to take all that cash and all that success and actually keep it going for decades and decades and decades. And that's why I really am like, don't shortcut that journey, because the skills that you get when you're building that thing are the skills that are gonna give you that long-term success and ultimately fulfillment, man. You wanna have mastery in your life and in business. That feels really good to say, hey, I've been through the fire and we've learned these skills, and whatever happens in the marketplace, we're going to know how to navigate it. Like, we're going to figure it out because we've gone through things before. Okay, so final question. What's a tool, book, resource, AI, like what's something that you're just like, this thing that I'm using is creating 10x value on the cost, and I'm just fired up about it?
Man, there's so many good ones. It's such a good question. Have you heard of GenSpark.ai? Have you ever heard of that one?
I haven't.
Oh, cool, man. Oh, yeah. Let me tell you something. It's great. It's like ChatGPT, but it's a little bit more AI agent based. So for folks at home, obviously, who don't know maybe what AI agent, it takes it a step further than just presenting feedback to you. It's actually performing tasks for you and automating different types of workflows. And so GenSpark has the same kind of presentation as a ChatGPT would have, but you could also have it like create up and mock up like different types of reports, or send emails, or pull your emails and calendars in for the day and be like, man, is there a focus block I can do? Can we put that on my calendar? It works a little bit more effectively to really make your schedule really effective. Now they have apps and things like that for it, but it's great, man. And the interface is amazing. And you get to toggle between ChatGPT and all the other great language model providers like a Gemini and all those different things, all from GenSpark. Yep. So that's one, like, look into that. For anybody at home who's just looking for any type of advice for any new tool, pick a tool and make sure that you just use it every day. That's like the first assignment. Like, absolutely lean into AI. It could be ChatGPT and asking the questions or helping you write an email. Lean into it, because becoming fluent in using these tools is 100% one of the most valuable skills you're going to get for the future. There's so many times where I have the voice model open up on ChatGPT and I'm prompting it with different things, and my family or friends will have me prompted just because I know how to talk to it. I never thought that was
Yep.
a skill, but I used it for 3 years
For
now,
sure.
and evidently it is a skill set now. So if you're at home and you're looking at these things, just start using them. And start using it for things you don't even think it might not be able to do or might be able to do. Try it out and become a fluent in it. It's going to serve you so well in the future.
I love it. Okay, so final question. There's a 10-year younger Marcus, and he comes into your door and he's like, hey, man, it's 2025. What do I need to know? What should I do today? Like, what's some wisdom you would give him?
Oh my gosh. Continue to learn how to deal with people and really dive into, this is a Christian term, but dive into your discernment on people. Because
Love it.
anybody who's been doing business long enough understands a level of discernment. I have a heart that's very giving and very loving, and I love to surround myself with a lot of people. One of the biggest lessons I learned in business is that not everybody's meant to be there for every season of your career or life or whatever it might be. So at times I've had people come into my inner circle and hit me where it's vulnerable. And so have a level of discernment, lean into your discernment, lean into different types of red flags and have communication open. Sometimes, there's relationships that just need to have a conversation. It's not they're a red flag of a person. It might be just a conversation of some kind of disconnect. Lean into your discernment.
I love that, man.
Yes, sir.
That's amazing. Dude, thank you so much for joining us on the show. Marcus, where can people find you? This has been amazing. If they want to reach out to you either for marketing services or to talk about the podcast, like what's a good spot they can find you?
Yeah, you can find me at redmojomarketing.com. That's my newest marketing agency where I'm the sole owner of COS Business Podcast, cos.biz podcast, B-I-Z podcast. On Instagram, we're all over everything. Find us on YouTube as well. We're really growing that sucker. I think we're at like 35,000 subscribers on YouTube. Keep growing that sucker.
That's amazing.
Just find
subscribe
us,
to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like and subscribe for sure, man.
I love it, brother. Well, thanks for joining us, and I look forward to joining you on your podcast next week.
Awesome, brother. That sounds good.
Take care.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Exceptional Companies Podcast. Make sure to subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or via RSS so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if you'd simply tell a friend about the show, that would help us out too. If you like this show, please reach out through our website, www.excoadvisors.com, for free tools to order a copy of Selling Main Street or to sign up for our free webinar on how to sell your Main Street business.